Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. You know, the Lakers drafting Bronny James is turning out to be one of the most contentious things that has happened over the last 2 weeks, and a bunch of people weighing in, giving their thoughts. Predominantly, though, however, people on ESPN are 100% pro the move. In fact, yesterday we produced a show reacting to some comments that Stephen A. Smith and Adrian Wojnarowski had said when the news officially dropped, and they were basically, defending nepotism, saying that, look, this is something that always existed in the NBA, so we don't need to make a big deal out of it, et cetera, et cetera, and et cetera. So what happened? This morning, one of our viewers sent me a clip to my Instagram account. Again, if you're not following me on Instagram, my handle is CTABANZ. And he sent me a clip which featured Chris Mad Dog Russo, Brian Windhorst, Molly Karam, and Stephen A. Smith. And they were basically reacting to the question that the moderator posed, which was, who's the most interesting player in this current draft, right? And then it came time for Stephen A. Smith to give his response. Stephen A. Smith essentially said that, look, the most interesting player in this draft by far, in his estimation, is Bronny James. But then something interesting happened that the panel, I believe, wasn't ready for, and it created this uncomfortable, awkward moment for these guys when Chris Mad Dog Russo began to speak. And when he began to speak, he essentially started saying that, look, the only reason any of us up here are even discussing Bronny James is because of his father, not because of the merits of his collegiate accomplishments. And Stephen A. Smith tried to spin it and talk about, well, he has some health issues. And he's like, yeah, but that's not the question. The question is, who's the most interesting player? And he's saying that he doesn't warrant being viewed as the most interesting player in the draft, because he goes, when have we ever viewed a 55th pick in the second round as the most interesting player ever? And it really created this awkward exchange for the entire panel. So what we want to do is we want to play exactly what Chris Russo had to say. We want to play what Stephen A. Smith had to say in his rebuttal to him, and then we're going to come back and give you guys our thoughts. Take a listen to the exchange here.
The operative word here is intrigue. We ain't talking about just basketball. If it was basketball, in terms of talent, obviously that's not the answer to this question. But when you use the word intrigue and you think about the multitude of storylines that come associated with this person, Bronny James, to me, is the most interesting thing going on. We're all waiting to see what happens with his name.
You might be. I am not. He would not even play on UConn past year. Wow. He would be on the bench with Danny Hurley's kid. He wasn't better than Newton. He's not better than Spencer, and he's not better than Castle.
Nobody said he is.
Well, hold on now. But you are talking about him as a draft possibility, and he would be the fourth guard on UConn. Newton's not getting drafted. The point guard who won 2 championships. This is a guy who, in a horrendous conference on a terrible team, averaged 4.8 points a game on 36% shooting. I mean, this is on USC. He didn't do this at Duke. This is at USC. I mean, if Bronny James' father was a... No, hold on now, Stevie. If LeBron James is not his father, would anybody care about Bronny James? Well, let's be honest. Let's call it like we see it. I know that's difficult to hear.
We are doing it.
That's a very fair point. He would not be even an issue. Nobody would care. His father's the reason there's intrigue. That's the only reason.
Time out. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not denying that. I'm not going to disrespect the kid. I'm going to remember that there was a cardiac arrest last summer and that he didn't play until January. I'm going to remember, you're talking about the dude like he's 100% healthy, came into college and did absolutely nothing. No, he almost died. He was out for half the season. He comes in January. I'm not saying that we saw something and, oh, my God, this guy, his credentials on the basketball court is worth it. But in the same breath, you do have to take that into consideration. You also have to take into consideration the fact that LeBron James is his father. And LeBron James is still playing. And LeBron James is about to approach free agency. And LeBron James has declared he would love to play with his son. And on top of it all, the Lakers, with the 55th pick, You know, who knows what they're going to do just because LeBron James wants them to do it? Who knows what the Boston Celtics are going to do at the 54th pick? Who knows what Dallas is going to do? Who knows what a team with bigs where the focus on Embiid or Jokic in terms of having a big where your offense goes through, that you can afford to take a chance on a young talent that's known for that believes that have some level of athleticism and prioritizes defense and what have you, and they're looking at the upside and to bring him along. I'm saying, yes, he has not proven himself on the basketball court on a collegiate level. And yes, if he were not LeBron James' son, we would not be talking about this. But the fact that he is, and with LeBron James having said what he has said, that's what makes it interesting. And we can't forget, as much as we want to sit up there and talk about the lack of the credentials, let's at least acknowledge the kid almost died. God, thank God he's still here. Cardiac arrest, and he's out. And then he comes back in January. We're acting like he's been 100% healthy, no issues, and was just riding the bench like Stephen A. or somebody. No, that is not what happened with Bronny James. Bronny James almost died, and he recovered from that. We got to remember that and put that in its proper perspective. We've been waiting. We've been waiting.
I got to say one thing.
Sure.
Listen, we're going to now throw out Bronny's health. Oh, that's what you're going to do? Well, he had a bad year because he had health in the middle of the. That wasn't the question. The question is, based on his high school career and based on what he produced for USC when he had a chance to produce, you tell me why you would draft him anywhere in the first 2 rounds. Tell me the reason. What evidence do we have?
Zero.
And I know you want to bring up the health all you want, with the heart issues. That's
no, zero, one. Doggy, you're right.
That's the
you're
problem.
right, Doggy. Zero. But the point is, knowing that, we've been talking about him for months.
Okay.
So you heard what the panelists had to say. What are my thoughts on this? First of all, I don't believe what Chris Russo said was controversial in any way, shape, or form. I believe he stated the obvious. Now, what I believe is also happening is that some people are trying to make it seem like no. This isn't. We're not talking about Bronny based on the fact that he's LeBron's son. We're talking about him because he did some incredible things in college, and that's just not the case. That is not the case. I heard someone bring up the point of, well, look at what Doc Rivers did for his son, Austin Rivers. There you had nepotism there, and I'm like, no, you didn't. Why? Because Austin Rivers, if you go back, he was averaging 15.5 points per game at Duke. And he was the 10th overall pick in the draft the year he came into the NBA. Now, later, he got a pretty big contract when he joined the Clippers, and people kind of speculated, did he get this contract because of his father? That's something else. But he didn't get drafted into the NBA by an NBA team, averaging 5 points a game, and then they said, oh, he got drafted to a team that Doc Rivers was coaching. No, that wasn't the case at all. So it wasn't nepotism whatsoever. Then one person said, "But why are you trying to? Why are you bringing up his collegiate feats?" The reason you're bringing it up is because it would then give us the reason why this particular person is qualified. And in the case of Bronny, most people believe that he's in that position because of his father. Now, whether that's right or that's wrong, that's a different conversation. In the case of what Chris Mad Dog Russo was saying, it's 100% the truth, and it's the reason Stephen A. Smith quickly agreed with him. That is the reason we're discussing him. And I just wish that everyone would be honest about it. Now, here's something else that I'm noticing. I'm also noticing a new behavior from LeBron fans, which is now they're beginning to support. Now they're defending the son the way they defended. I guess it's like a family deal. It's like a coverage plan. It covers the entire family. The honey, they pour it all over everybody. Not just LeBron, but the whole family. These dudes cannot stop. It's funny. One of them sent me a threat the other day on Instagram talking about he said, you're not welcome in LA and all of this. You're like, yeah, you be talking like you gully, like you about it, like you about that life. And I'm like, really? Is that what I'm doing? Sounds like I'm sensing a little bit of insecurity in you. I'm just talking normal talk sports here, and you're feeling the type of way. And he told me he gonna bloom black me. You're not good in LA. And the funniest thing was some of our viewers who follow our content, they're from LA. And they were like, yo, you know how they talking to you, your boss, you're like, yo, he fronting and you good out here. You're like, your son not even. I was like, I'm like, yo, just because we talking sport, these LeBron fans don't play. They do not play about some LeBron James. They do not play when it comes to LeBron. They ready to crash out for him. I'm like, really? Really? Now I'm being banned from LA. Matter of fact, if I went to LA, which I've already been, but if I go again, I feel like we're gonna get a lot of love because we be spreading love. Like I don't think it's all of that. I think I might see some Laker fans that are like, yo, you a hater, but like jokingly and have fun. He was like, nah, son, don't come to LA. He posting a burn on the bed. I'm like, yo, on the bed. I'm like, yo, all right, whatever. So yesterday, was it yesterday? Yes, yesterday I was combing through the internet and I came across an image from Yahoo Sports. And in this image, they were basically quoting one of their writers, Vincent Goodwill. And he had some pretty interesting comments, or dare I say strong comments, about, Bronny James being drafted to the Lakers. And what is it? I'm going to go through some of the slides here and read some of it. On the first image, it says, and we want to show it to you, it's now a spectacle, a show, and no longer about competition and rightfulness. We were all taken for a ride as fools to believe anything else than what James has showed us for years, wanting to control conversation and the narrative. Perhaps the 19-year-old can turn into a rotation player with the right environment, coaching, and development. And at some point, Bronny James will have to sink or swim on his own merit. And then we can truly judge him. He then closes by saying, James continues his assault on the record books, placing more statistical distance between himself and those behind him by sheer longevity, but it feels like he's further from winning anything substantial than any other point of his career. So that's what the post said on that's what the post said on Instagram. So then I decided to go hunt down the full article, and I actually found the article on Yahoo Sports. So that's the article we actually want to get into in depth here. So let me get into what this article had to say. It says, 2024 NBA draft for Bronny James joining LeBron. The questions must be asked. Where does winning fit in all of this? So it shall be said, so it shall be done. The king and the prince united, not just in a household, but in employer, as the Los Angeles Lakers drafted LeBron James Jr., also known as Bronny James, to pair with his father, the NBA's all-time leading scorer. Assuming the two take the floor together, James does have a player option. They'll be the first father and son duo to share the court in NBA history. It took cajoling and perhaps even some threats, at least reportedly, by Rich Paul. Paul is the super agent and childhood friend of the elder James, and apparently he told teams they were thinking of drafting Bronny James that he would play in Australia rather than for any team that selected him, except in regard to the Lakers. Bronny wasn't amongst the 8 players in attendance in the NBA to put in a makeshift green room at ESPN Seaport location, New York. The first time the NBA held its draft on multiple days, with the second round occurring Thursday afternoon. Bronny ostensibly was the biggest name of available players, along with Kyle Filipski. Filipski, the center from Duke, who was the lone man remaining in the green room on Thursday night, was selected by the Jazz with the second pick in the second round. On the floor, Bronny James is said to be mature and a good defender with an improving jump shot. He doesn't have the massive height of his father or his outerworldly athleticism, but he's a plus athlete and appears to be a smart player. If it can harness, and perhaps the 19-year-old can turn into a rotational player with the right environment, coaching, and development, the same thing most teams say about the late second round pick. And players with familiar last names get more chances, more looks than those who don't have that pedigree. It's just not as publicized. And to some point, Bronny James will have to sink or swim on his own merit. And then we can truly judge him. For the last few months, the elder James was backing off his stated goal of wanting to play with his son. It was not as much of a demand or even a wish as we were led to believe, and that Bronny James' future was his own, not from machinations of his agent or his father. That doesn't look to be totally true at this point, and it isn't anything other than normal agent maneuvering On one level, agents steer their clients to and away from desirable and undesirable situations routinely this time of the year. In fact, Ron Holland didn't work out in Detroit prior to being selected 5th, and new Pistons president admitted agents didn't want their players working out for that particular franchise, probably because of the turmoil from the last few years. And speaking of nepotism, that franchise has it at high levels. Pistons vice chairman Arn Tellem has made sure his son Eric has a high-ranking role in the Pistons front office, and so much scuttle in the days leading up to the draft had the Pistons linked to Matej Buzelis, who represented by Michael Tellem, another one of Arn Tellem's sons. So nepotism, or at least the appearance of it, happens all the time in this league, and it happens in plain sight if we're willing to look. It doesn't necessarily mean anything nefarious is happening. It just means it exists and there's no reason to pretend. When LeBron is involved and he's openly stated wanting to play with Bronny, it feels different. Bronny only worked out for 2 teams, the Lakers and the Phoenix Suns, declining invitations elsewhere. So this was totally manipulated, and it's okay to feel a little weird about this. It's now a spectacle, a show, no longer about competition and rightfulness. We were all taken for rides as fools to believe anything else than what James has shown us for years, wanted to control the narrative, control the conversation and the narrative. Not to mention last summer, Bronny suffered a cardiac arrest during a USC Open run. Just seeing him back on the floor felt like a miracle in itself, even if his numbers and production didn't overwhelm anyone in his one season in Southern California. So what happens now? LeBron's podcasting partner, JJ Redick, is now the Lakers coach, and both claim the future Hall of Famer didn't have much to do with the sloppy and confusing process that predictably concluded with the ESPN analyst being named the coach shortly after the NBA Finals ended. Now he's playing with his son. And who knows what role, because we've seen so very little of Bronny James to determine his readiness at this level. Most of the highlights shown of the younger James were from the NBA Draft Combine in Chicago because he's so much of an unknown. The Lakers are a family-run organization, the Buss, the Rambis family, and now the James family. If there's one organization that couldn't thumb its nose at a star wanting to be one in this particular wish, it's the Lakers. One wonders where winning fits in the equation for LeBron at this point. A team taking a flyer on Bronny James with the 55th pick isn't exactly costing them much. Bronny is as much of an unknown as players taking dozens of spots above him. But the Lakers are intent on telling everyone how serious they are about winning and reclaiming their spot in the NBA's mountain of winners. Goodness Lord, that was scathing. Scathing. And I think everything he said has merits, because if you listen to General Manager Rob Pelinka, he said that the reason they decided to draft Bronny was because it was a moment to make history, to see a father and a son play on a court together. Imagine the general manager is thinking about history instead of thinking about winning. How about winning a championship and making history that way? That's not the case. Look, folks, I'll leave it to your interpretation. Obviously, there were a lot of people that were not a fan of his comments. I'll just read some things of what some people said on on Instagram. Bro is a hater. Another person said, rooting for Bronny to kill it in the NBA and shut up all of these clout chasers acting as if they care about a second round pick all of a sudden. Another person said the integrity of the game is tarnished yet again. Another person said emotions look like this post. Ask him where was his outrage when the Bucks acquired Giannis's brother. That he put the laughing emoji, but I know he's crying. The fact that everyone turns a blind eye knowing Bron is using. I'm not going to read that. I'm confused. Did he take a spot from someone else? I'm going to act like as if I didn't read that last comment because it was too stupid to even respond to. Folks, I don't know what's going on. I do not know what's going on, but it looks like LeBron James is just not in the mood for any kind of commentary on his son if it ain't positive, right? What am I talking about? As you guys know, recently there was this thing that took place where LeBron unfollowed Kendrick Perkins. And it was something that they actually discussed on ESPN. And the reason he unfollowed Kendrick Perkins is, I guess, for some of the things that Kendrick Perkins had been saying about LeBron. So we know that, we discussed it, we reacted to that. But apparently it looks like LeBron ain't done unfollowing people in media. Because according to a report that I got this morning from Fadeaway World, it seems like LeBron James has unfollowed Rachel Nichols. Now, some of you are like, Rachel Nichols? Did you work at ESPN? Yep, Rachel Nichols. Apparently, what had happened was Rachel Nichols was on Undisputed. And they were talking about Bronny James and all of that stuff. And I guess she was giving some of her honest opinions. And apparently, LeBron heard it, right? And I guess he heard what she had to say. And he decided to unfollow her, right? And people are like, wait, what happened? What did she say? Well, that's actually what we want to get into. We want to actually get into her comments. So what we want to do is we want to play what Rachel Nichols had to say about LeBron and his son. And then we're going to come back and react to the comments. Take a listen to Rachel Nichols here.
The upside, he can be a good defensive guard. He's got great court vision. He seems to be a very good teammate, which was not a given his upbringing. He could have had this holier than now, I'm LeBron's son attitude. Yep. No one on any team he's ever played on has said that. He needs to learn how to create more. He needs to improve his shot. Now, his father improved his shot significantly throughout his NBA career. So,
well, he certainly did this last year.
Certainly, we can see Bronny having a trajectory like that. Will he ever be a star? I don't think so. It does not seem like, just his size and some of the other things about the way he plays, I don't think he's a future star player. But, you know, high end. Is he a Marcus Smart? I mean, is that there are guys who have made a living in this league being solid defensive guards. Davion Mitchell is a comp that Bronny himself brought up, and that's a guy with, you know, quick feet, similarly sized, a lot of defensive point of attack tendencies. So there are guys in the NBA who have made decent careers out of being the kind of player that at his high point he could be. On the other hand, we've seen guys drafted at that spot who have fallen out of the league or who don't last very long. The thing is, number 55, it's not such a high-value pick that you can't take a flyer on someone. Keyshawn, you know, my second-round picks theory, people throw them around like singles at a strip club because there's so many of them and they don't mean that much.
Lord have mercy.
If you look at the last couple guys to go at number 55, the guy who went at 55 last year played a total of 4 minutes in the NBA last season, and the guy who went 55 the year before that spent his rookie season in the G League. So the bar, if they take him at 55, is not that he has to be just fantastic, Victor Wembanyama, out of the gate. He just needs to be someone you think that you can develop. And I don't think it's so crazy that given all the other factors the Lakers have, they're like, great, this is a better number 55 than a lot of the other guys we could pick at this spot.
So you heard what Rachel Nichols had to say, right? LeBron unfollowed her because of that. What are my thoughts? Listen, if LeBron is going to unfollow her because of that, then LeBron is going to be unfollowing a lot of people in sports media, because they're going to be people that are just not going to go along and get along, to quote Kwame Brown. They're not just going to go up there and just basically lie to you because you don't want to hear a different opinion, number one. Number two, this is part of the game, folks. This is part of the game, right? This is what happened. I mean, Bronny James now is a young man. He's going into the NBA. And he's going to be talked about the same way any other player is going to be talked about, right? He's going to be talked about the same way. And if I'm Bronny James, man, I'm looking at my dad. I'm like, I don't need you to, you know what I'm saying? I don't need you to fight my battles. We've all been in school, like, you know, the parent that shows up, like, it's okay. Like, I got this, right? Bronny's going to be talked about. There are going to be people that say nice things about him, and there are going to be people that don't say nice things about him. It's what everybody goes through. And personally, I don't think anybody should be exempt. Nobody. That is the definition of fairness. If you're going to talk about this player, that player, this player, why should Bronny be exempt? Number one. Number two, LeBron fans, why should he be exempt? Why? Everybody goes through it. So why should he be excluded? It's part of the game. You now stepped into the spotlight. It is something that you wanted to do. No one forced Bronny to go join the Lakers. He wanted to join the Lakers. He said he wanted to hear his name called. He was emotional when he was selected. So this comes with it. But now to start on following people, I don't like what she said. Like, bro, cut it out. They're going to give their opinion on your child. And if you didn't want this, then you should have probably not have said that. Because it's a double-edged sword. There are going to be people out there that are going to say positive things about him. And if he doesn't play well or something doesn't happen, they're going to give their opinions as well. It's part of the ecosystem, right? And it's the same ecosystem that's benefited you. Now, what to me is a bit childish is that Rachel Nichols has been one of the biggest LeBron James proponents in media. She's always there supporting him and saying nice things about him. And then she says one or two things and all of a sudden you unfollow her. To me, that just like, come on, like, what are we doing? That's just an emotional reaction. Personally, like, this is what we're doing. That's so passive aggressive. I'm going to unfollow you. Like, really? This is what we doing? This is where we at now? I'm following people. Like, that's where we at. You understand how that looks? Like, it just looks so sensitive. Like, oh, I don't like what she said. I'm unfollowing her. Like, really? It bothered you that much to then take that course of action? And what she said, I don't even think that warranted being unfollowed. It's going to happen. People are going to say things. Bronny hasn't even started playing yet. He hasn't even started playing yet. You got LeBron fans coming out in droves. They're already ready to defend. They pouring honey on everybody. Everybody. They're not joking. They're not joking. They are not. They are ready to twerk it up. They didn't drank their Red Bulls. They're ready to just basically disturb the peace. So to me, man, like, come on, like, really? You're going to follow her because she said, have you heard Rachel Nichols talk about LeBron over the last 5 years? Like, are you kidding me? Because of that? Or maybe she said one thing or two things you disagree with. Now, all of a sudden, you unfollow her. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, these are the antics. Matter of fact, I'm going to leave it at that, man, because people are going to be like, you hate. And it's the point to hate her. They'll be like, oh, you hating. But who's saying this? It's only independent dudes that are saying this, and some people very few people in big media that are saying it. So what y'all want? Y'all just want everybody to be up here kumbayaing it up with you dudes, like, oh, like, it's all love. It's like it's all gyrate together. Let's just twerk it up together. No, there got to be different views out there. You people have a problem with different views. Let there be different views, man. Let us live. Like, let us live.